If I don't take this leap, I'm going to always wonder what if, and I don't want that. I would rather take the leap and fall flat on my face than not take the leap at all. I don't want to get to heaven and the Lord say, but this is what I wanted you to do, and you didn't. And these are all the lives you could have touched.
Hi, and welcome back to the Peaceful Presence podcast, where we share stories about faith, hope, and miracles. And today, I'm excited to introduce you to Michelle Rupp. She is an Emmy Award-winning television news reporter and the founder of Memorable Results Media, where she helps small businesses get earned media coverage and share their stories in impactful ways. And in this episode, we're going to talk about what looked like a breaking point in Michelle and her family's life actually became the catalyst for the passion that she carries today. And you'll hear how faith carried her through that time and how she found the courage to take a leap of faith into starting her own business. And now she equips others to share their stories in a way that makes a real impact. I am thankful for this conversation, and I hope that you're going to enjoy it. And please, before you watch, remember to like and subscribe from whatever platform you are tuning in from. Now let's meet Michelle. Michelle, thanks so much for being here today. And I've had the privilege to get to know you a little through the course of this last year, but I'm excited to learn more about your faith story today. One of my favorite types of testimonies to share are the ones that what looks like a closed door or a breaking point actually becomes the blueprint for something greater. And that's something that I've experienced in my own life. And the more testimonies that I hear, the more I recognize the common thread that God uses what feels like the end often as an invitation into something that's new and more purposeful. And I know that you have a testimony like this, something that you and your family went through years ago that really shaped who you are today and the heart behind the work that you do. So before we dive into your story, though, I would love for you just to give a quick introduction, just share who you are, what you do today, and then if you could, take us back to what happened with your family, because I know that that's what shaped the direction of your life's work today.
Well, Olivia, thank you so much for this opportunity and to just have this conversation with you. I am an Emmy Award-winning reporter. I spent over 20 years in the local TV news as a reporter, storyteller, news anchor. I started my career in television as a producer, and I utilized the experiences growing up that I'll get into, as well as my rich background in television and media, to work with business owners, nonprofit organizations, ministries, in helping them tell their story in such a way that it is attractive to television, to podcasts, helping them tell their story even when they're speaking on stages. We all have a story, and that's really what helps connect us, is when we hear those human stories. And for some people, it's very easy to tell the story. Other people prefer not to tell the story. So it's that's where I help serve and work with individuals, because everyone has a story and everyone can benefit from hearing that story.
I couldn't agree more.
My story takes place when I was 15. I have very vivid memories of my mom and dad calling my siblings and I into the living room for a family meeting. Now, for a brief backstory, previously, when we would have a family meeting, generally that meant we were having an addition to our sibling count.
So, how many siblings do you have?
I am the oldest of 4.
Okay. So, you were used to that, right?
I was used to that.
Another baby.
And I'm in 8th. I guess I was in 9th grade at that point, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I don't want this family meeting. Okay. And if you have 15-year-olds, that attitudes can certainly be a thing. So we all come into the living room, and I quickly am able to surmise that this has a different feel to it. This family meeting is much more serious. And they said with tears in their eyes that they would be closing our family-owned hardware store. We had owned this store in my hometown for many years. We were one of about a half a dozen mom and pop hardware stores. And over the course of the previous year, a big box store had moved into town. And little by little, the mom and pop stores were closing. And ours was the last one to close. And I remember my mom specifically saying, there just aren't enough people who are buying penny nails. We would sell nails by the bulk, and they were a penny a piece. And I thought, not enough people are buying 1-cent nails. Mom and Dad quickly reassured us that nothing was going to change in the family, and that we were still together, and that we were going to get through this, and Mom and Dad still loved us, and I was still going to be a cheerleader, and we may not go out on Friday nights as much, but that's okay. We can have pizza at home and spend family time. And that was a pivotal moment, but it wasn't until many, 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 many years later that I realized that's what shaped my attitude and my heart towards small businesses. When I was a television producer, I created and launched a mid-morning lifestyle show in the year 2000. That was before lifestyle shows were a thing. And my heart was to invite as many mom and pop small businesses onto the show as possible, because I knew that a little bit of publicity could go a long way. And a little bit of what we call in the media world or the PR world as earned media, what a little bit of earned media could do, how that could launch a business, how it could skyrocket a business. Our store was the late 80s when we had the store. So there wasn't this idea or this concept of getting on television or telling your story. If you were going to be on the radio or in the newspaper, you were buying ads. You were paying for ads to run in the paper, run on the radio station, not positioning. I think back, my gosh, we could have positioned my dad as such a thought leader in the hardware industry, when it comes to construction, when it comes to building anything, when it comes to remodeling, when it comes to the type of tools that you need. But
like
that wasn't
the go-to person, and then everybody feels connected to him. And yeah.
And that was not a thing back then, but it's a thing now. And that is what really is my mission and what fuels me. It breaks my heart to get emails or to see on social media businesses that are closing. I received an email a couple of weeks ago from a local business that said, September 30th is our last day. And I thought, I feel that. I have a visceral reaction. I know what that conversation is like and the emotions that come with it. And my heart is, I don't want your family to experience that. I don't want you as a business owner, as a parent, to have that conversation with your children and your family. So what can we do? How can we position you on television as a thought leader, get more eyeballs on your business so that people know your business exists?
Listening to Michelle share about her family store reminds me how much I love supporting small businesses with heart. And since it's October and we're moving into that cozy fall and winter season, I have to tell you about one of my absolute favorites, Mill Pond candles. These are truly the best candles I've ever had. They're handmade with 100% soy wax, totally clean and safe for your home, kids, and even pets. And they smell amazing too. Every time I have one burning, I always get compliments. And what I also love is that this business is a labor of love. The family behind Mill Pond Candles touches everything with intention, and you can feel their heart in their products. So if you love supporting small business and you love candles as much as I do, then treat yourself or grab some as gifts. You can use my code PEACEFUL for 10% off your first order. I'll drop the link below in the show notes. Now back to the episode. So going back to that moment, obviously it left this lasting impact on you.
Mm-hmm.
But as you said, you were 15 at the time.
Yep.
So how did that impact you personally? Was there fear? Like, I know your parents reassured you that this is, we're not going to have the same lifestyle that we were accustomed to. Was it hard watching your parents? Because obviously, if you're a business owner, you've poured your blood, sweat, and tears and money and a lot of your life into that's your baby. Yep. And was it hard to watch your parents go through this transition as well? And then, what happened to them after the fact too?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, I'll start with your first question and kind of how did that impact me on a personal level. I remember being very fearful. I had just made cheerleader, and that was the pinnacle for me. That is what I'd always wanted to do. And I became very fearful that now we aren't going to have the money for the cheerleading uniforms. Now, cheerleading in 1989 and 1990 is absolutely nothing like how it is today for high schools. We had, one uniform and one set of pom-poms and not the whole enchilada. So, but even at that moment in time, I thought, I'm not going to be able to be a cheerleader. And mom and dad were very quick to reassure, no, yes, you're going to be a cheerleader. That's not changing. The ninth grade trip, there was a ninth grade spring break trip to New York and Washington, D.C. I was not able to make that trip. Now, the benefit of hindsight is I was never going to be allowed to go on that trip, whether we had the business or not. That was a hard no. Mom and dad were not going to let a 15-year-old on a school bus with 20 other 15-year-olds go traipsing off to New York City and Washington, D.C. Just not going to happen. Mm-hmm. Back then, of course, I thought, well, it's a result of not having the store. Now I know, no, even if that was an easy no for them.
Yeah.
Watching my parents, they did an impeccable job of shielding us kids from some of the struggles that they were going through and the feelings and the emotions and all the things. I remember there was a point in time, Dad had 3 jobs and it was a very short season. And by short, I don't even know that it was a quarter. I don't even know that it was 3 months. But there was a point where Dad had 3 jobs and Mom had a job, and they did such an impeccable job of reassuring us and of keeping the train on the tracks, so to speak, so that I didn't feel it. My brothers and sisters didn't feel the tension or the stress that would inevitably come with closing down a business.
Right. And as far as faith goes, was that something that your family leaned on that you knew all your life as well?
It was. Yeah. My mom was the director of the children's ministry at the church I grew up in. So faith was always very, very deeply rooted in all of us. And I remember even during that time, mom tithing, mom and dad both would tithe. And that was something that was instilled in us as very, very young. And we never went without. And mom will tell the stories now of, I don't know how that chicken noodle soup at lunch stretched.
Yeah.
But it did. And we know that the seeds that were planted in our hearts and through church and tithing, and even when we didn't have maybe the finances to tithe, but we had our time that we could tithe and that we could serve. And we were never, the Lord never dropped us.
Yeah.
We didn't lose our house. We didn't have, the lights came on every time we flipped the switch. The air conditioning came on every time. The heat came on every time. He took care of us.
Mm-hmm. So obviously this was a pivotal time for you, and
Mm-hmm.
it led to what you did with the lifestyle show.
Mm-hmm.
But now you're running your own company. Can you walk us through the journey of your career and how you started at the lifestyle show, and then where you are today and what you're doing to help others?
Definitely. I spent 20 plus years in television in total, lifestyle show, producing, reporting, anchoring. Left the business actually, and went into corporate communications, corporate PR, and spent just right under a decade in corporate PR. And that was, I left corporate in 2022. I had a pivotal moment in corporate where I had been doing the job, doing all the things, and they had a restructure, and I got caught up in that. And I remember that moment of thinking, I don't ever want to feel this again. I don't ever want to feel the rug being pulled out from under me. Mm-hmm. And that moment, along with being a teenager, and I started thinking there has to be a way that I can help businesses with the background and expertise in TV, that I can help businesses get visibility. And I started working for a corporate company. I had gone as high as you can go, corner office, gorgeous view, hated it.
Yeah.
And in my spare time, I'm thinking, let me try this. Let me try this crazy idea of just sending some press releases for small businesses. There's a local running store that was my first client. They're still my client. And they were giving away a scholarship to some high school senior graduating boy and graduating girl. And I said, we need to put together a press release for this. I bet we can get some press for the scholarship. And he kind of laughed and said, go ahead. If you think, what would you charge? Go ahead. And I kind of just threw out a number, and he said, okay. And I thought, okay. And it was life to me. And I put together the press release, and we created an event where we were going to award this scholarship to these students at the running store on a Sunday. We were inviting the kids and their parents and their friends, and we invited local media. And that first one, 3 of the 4 local TV stations were there and covered it that night. And that owner, how did you get me on TV? Like, how did that just happen? And I said, well, I have a background in it, and there are a few things I know, a few tricks I have up my sleeve. Don't worry about it. Just enjoy it. And then that steadily has progressed, where now that particular business is on TV somewhat regularly, and the owner gets stopped regularly. People know who he is. They know about his business. I jokingly say the other running stores in town must hate him because
they're going to run away. No.
Because if there's if we're doing a heat related story, running in the heat, and they go to his store, he's the thought leader. That's how we positioned him. If we're wanting to run in snow, they're going to him to ask it about that because he's the thought leader. And they've seen their revenue grow. They've had now a couple of $1 million years, and it brings me so much joy to be able to get them the publicity that they deserve, and see it translate in the customers that are coming in, the website hits that come in, and they couple that with a pretty strong social media presence that they handle on their own. I don't handle their socials, but those working in concert together. I often say, I as a consumer cannot follow your business if I don't know your business exists.
Yeah.
One of those ways, I mean, there's multiple ways, right? We talk about the businesses on podcasts, and we talk about them on stages, and we talk about them in magazine articles. Some small towns, all they've got is newspaper. Other small towns, all they have are radio. Some places don't have the luxury of TV, or their TV station's 2 hours away. But it's using all of that to increase followers, to get people into your business.
I love it. I love that that was such a confirmation for you, because if I'm hearing it all correctly, you have this experience when you're a teenager, you see what happens to your own family. Then you move into the lifestyle television that you had produced, which was featuring small businesses. And then you went into the news, where you probably stepped away from the heart of what you were loving before. And so I would imagine that it would take a leap of faith at some point to leave a stable career. You know, you met with that one gentleman on the side as you were still working in your career, but then at some point you had to take this leap of faith to say, I'm going to start my own business.
Yes.
What was that like for you?
Terrifying.
I figured.
Absolutely terrifying.
But how did you know? How did you know this is what you were supposed to do? And I love that you said earlier you felt life, or it gave you life to be seeing what you were doing. So I'm sure that played a component of it, but still there's the, financial stability. I'm sure that definitely took a leap.
I began preparing. I knew that corporation that I was working for, that was not my forever job. And I began getting my financial house in order, getting student loans paid off, just getting things tightened up and putting money away like crazy. Because I knew the time was coming that I wanted to do this. And the more that I longed for this business, the more frustrating I was becoming on the corporate side of things. Yeah. January of 2022, I happened to say, to some friends, I won't be in this position by the end of summer. And then as we started getting closer to the end of summer, I thought, okay, we have a decision to make. Are we going to keep our word, or are we not? And there was a moment where I knew I've got these other couple of things lined up and ready to go. And if I don't just put a stake in the ground and put a date on it when I'm leaving, I will continue to kick that can. It's not going to get easier. It's always going to be terrifying to take this leap. So let's just take the leap and get that part over with. And that's what I did. I met with my COO that I reported to directly at the end of June in 2022, and said, at the conclusion of our board of directors meeting, the 1st of August, that will be my last day. And of course, we had conversations before. She was well aware that I had this side business. She didn't know how good it was doing at the time, but she knew that I had something else on the side. And I just was very honest with her and said, if I don't take this leap, I'm going to always wonder what if. Yeah. And I don't want that.
Yeah.
I would rather take the leap and fall flat on my face than not take the leap at all.
Yeah. I understand that completely.
Yeah.
I love how you're painting the picture of how you started getting more excited about what you were doing. It made this job started to tilt the scales, so to say. And And it wasn't that you just took this drastic leap of faith at this moment. You thought about it. There was a little preparation, and you held
Mhm.
this vision in your mind, and I'm sure in your heart. And then you even vocalized it to some friends. So it was like you were doing all the steps, knowing where you wanted to go, and then you committed
Mhm.
to that. You did mention that there was a moment that you knew it was time. Was there something that happened, or was it just a feeling that came over you?
That particular company, the CEO was retiring, and a new CEO was coming in,
Mm-hmm.
and I, the idea of, which let me say, the CEO that was coming in, wonderful man, and he was replacing a wonderful man, but the idea of leading my teams and being part of the executive team through that transition,
Yeah.
not enticing to me whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I had the thought this would be an opportune time as the old CEO is retiring, and then I can quietly make my exit. I'd been very strategic with beginning to, as part of my preparation, there was a director that I worked real closely with, and I began kind of working with her so that she would be a natural interim
Mm-hmm.
when I left, so that I also could demonstrate that with my CEO saying, I mean, obviously, an interim person is up to you. However, let me tell you some of the great things that this individual has been doing, and I
Right.
think she would step into this and thrive.
Yeah.
So being able to set up a successor, I had a business coach tell me um, that the way you end one season is how you begin another,
Mm-hmm.
and that resonated, and because I wanted to begin the new season of the new company with such integrity and character, and wanting to have the favor on the business, that I also wanted to leave the old corporate business with integrity and with character, and leaving with favor as well, and I believe that I did that.
I love that. And if more people could think like that, and you know, not to say this is everywhere, but a lot of work ethic isn't as strong as it used to be. And it's really nice when you can see people care so much about even the job that they don't care as much about anymore, but they want to leave it in good standing. And I love what your business coach said, because it obviously you probably left there feeling good, like you
Yeah.
had exited the best way you possibly could, and with that, off to your new thing, and hopefully starting, you know, the upward momentum there. So
Yes.
how has faith guided you, not just in taking that leap, but also in your day-to-day decisions of running your business and helping other small businesses succeed?
Yeah. There are some businesses that I will work with, and quite honestly, there are some businesses that I will not work with. There certainly needs to be somewhat of an alignment. Now that being said, uh, several businesses that I have worked with and continue to work with are secular businesses, and that's okay. Um, but there has to be a certain level of alignment. Um, I do a lot of praying. Um, there is a lot of, most recently there's been a lot of um, putting my faith in action, and really relying on my faith, and even in my quiet time, some of the scriptures that I've been reading, just reminding the Lord, okay, you said this and you don't lie. so so I'm standing on this, whatever that particular scripture might be. And it's I will say it's, for the most part, been gumdrops and rainbows. It hasn't always been gumdrops and rainbows, and I think that any business owner would attest to that. There are certainly moments um, when you're tested, and you feel like you are walking through the fire, and it's all in how you handle those tests, and how you come out on the other side.
Yeah. Well, why don't you talk a little bit about your company and what you do, what you specialize in? You already have a little bit, but maybe touch on that a little more.
Sure. Well, I enjoy working with small businesses. There are some nonprofits that I've come alongside of, and the idea is to get them on TV, on their local news, not as a commercial. There's a certain way that we pitch a business. There's a certain way that we craft telling that business story. There are, viewers want that connection, and really viewers on social media as well. They want that connection. They want to hear your story. They want to do business with you. The more personal you can make it, the more likely that they are, yes, absolutely, that's where I'm spending my money. No question about it. So we work in crafting those stories. I've work and continue to work with clients all across the country. That is one of the beautiful parts about local news is you've got contacts all across the country, and local news looks for good stories, and they look for positive stories, and they look for local stories. I had a friend say, "But why television? That's like so 1984. Nobody's watching TV." Well, right. And what's exciting about a TV appearance is, yes, okay, you definitely have your generation, your Gen Xers, maybe even some of your Gen Zers who are watching television because they did grow up with TV. You get a link from your appearance. That link typically goes on the website of the station. Oftentimes it might go in their mobile app. And now, because of all the streaming services, most TV stations have their own streaming service that they offer. So when their news is running on the television, it's simulcasting on their streaming service as well. So you're tapping into the generation and the individuals who want to just watch the stream.
Yeah. In a way, it's better than the TV of yesterday, because that was, hey, it's on at this time, and if you didn't record it, you might not see it again. So this kind of keeps on living.
It does. And TV is still the gold standard.
Yeah.
A business that can say, as seen on TV, like that adds a level of credibility, because as reporters and as anchors, we're not going to just put anybody on television. We just aren't. So to be able to say, as seen on TV, has a little bit more credible ring than as seen on TikTok or as seen on Instagram.
little bit.
A little bit more. But you can take those links and repurpose them and put them on Instagram and put them on TikTok. And there are plenty of things that we do behind the scenes, taking video and whatnot, that does go on Instagram and that does go on all the social platforms. So you're really broadening your reach more by adding this other layer of the old school of, hey, let's get on TV. I will say that a lot of people, the media is not looked upon favorably in culture at the moment. And I would say that there's a difference between the national news that gets pumped out of New York and your local news in your hometown, in Fayetteville, Arkansas, in Little Rock, Arkansas, in Dallas, Texas, in Charlottesville, Virginia, in Indianapolis, Indiana. Those local folks, those are the folks you still see at the grocery store. Your kids and their kids are probably in school together. You may go to church with them. Those are the people that they don't have time to push an agenda. They're just trying to get their job done for that day. And if by pitching a story in such a way that allows them to get that job done for that day, that's all they want. They don't want to debate. They don't want to get into fights. They just want to get their job done for the day. So in a culture where media may not be looked upon as favorably, there is a distinction between national and local.
Yeah. We see that here, and that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody who was in the position that you were, and they're not quite happy where they're at right now, and they feel something stirring on their heart to do? What would be your advice to somebody out there listening to this, thinking, "Gosh, she made that leap of faith. I wonder if I could too."
Yep. If you have a stirring, even if it's just the beginning of a stirring, my advice for that person would be think back in a time when you were your happiest. When were you your happiest? I was my happiest telling other people's stories. Okay, so I use that as a springboard. All right, how can I begin to tell other people's stories? If you are at the place where something's got to give, and you're done with the 9 to 5 and you want to take that leap, my encouragement would be to do it, to take the leap, because you'll always wonder, oh, what if? I don't want to get to heaven and the Lord say, but this is what I wanted you to do, and you didn't. And these are all the lives you could have touched. These are all the businesses. These are all the situations that could have changed. I'd rather get there and hear, well done, you did do it, and look at all the people that are in heaven because of what you did, but all the businesses that survived, and they, by getting some exposure, and then having more customers, and then bringing in more revenue, allowed for that business to make this type of donation to an orphanage, or to kids in foster care, or to student athletes. And it just perpetuated. That's what I want. I want that ripple. Yeah. I want that ripple. I don't want to
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I love how you are connecting all the dots, and you're not just seeing it for your business. You're seeing how that ripple effect carries on throughout now and what happens after.
Yes.
I was going to also ask you, in terms of, your company, obviously it's helping these small businesses stand out, and what you said, become the gold standard in their community.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see God's hand connecting you back to that original blueprint from your childhood, where your heart for small businesses first began?
By having me rooted here in Little Rock. I'm an hour from my hometown. I could do this anywhere, but he brought me back home to do it. And there is a level of credibility. There's a level of name recognition, because I was on television here, and people in my hometown did see what I was doing. And so for me to come back and say, hey, this is what I'm doing now, and this is how it benefits you, and this is also how this is a non-negotiable. Like, at the minimum, we've got to be able to get you comfortable sharing your story, even if the only camera you talk in front of is the one on your phone. But let's do that. Let's at least get that done, so that you resonate and connect with people that stop the scroll to hear what you have to say. So that it all comes back to being able to do it here. I actually shot a video. I went back to my hometown a couple weeks ago, and you're gonna make me tear up. I went back to the store, to the old store, and shot a video in front of it. And that's the first time I'd been back on that property since 1989. And that was a moment. That was a moment.
I bet.
But I wouldn't be able to do that if I wasn't here. Yes, I can do this job anywhere, but being able to be here and being able to say, this is the old hardware store. This is what it is today, and reference it and talk about some of the experiences that I had as a little girl, inside the store. I can't do that if I'm not here.
Yeah. And I would be putting words in your mouth, but I'm just feeling this, that also having you there where you were a known television presence adds to your own confidence in what you're doing. Not that you need it, but
Yeah.
I would feel like you're planted in that place that continually breathes confidence in the work that you're doing as well. I know that your company is doing something in the month of October. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yes, I would love to. We are doing a cohort. It's a 5-week cohort. We meet on Wednesday evenings at 7 o'clock Central Time. And for those who are interested, what we're going over each week, we're going to learn about what is your business story? Like, why is your business story important? One week we're talking about just how to tell your business story. One of the weeks I'm going to look at pitches, and we're going to talk about the way that you verbalize your business story on camera is a little bit different than how you might write it in a pitch. If you yourself were sitting in the Quad Cities in Iowa and you're thinking, you know what, I could do this on my own. I don't need Michelle. Yeah, you absolutely could do it on your own. I'm going to show you how. There's a way that you write that pitch where the person who receives it automatically says, oh yeah, that's a great story. Yeah, absolutely. We want to have them on. And then the last week, the final week, we are talking about kind of studio etiquette, like what happens when your pitch gets picked up or your phone rings and it's your local news. And they're like, hey, we're doing a story today on the fact that it's 32 degrees out and you've got a sale on coats. We want to come do a story on your business about your coat sale. And then you're sitting there going, what, today? Like, no. Oh, I'm not ready. Oh, I'm not. And you kind of start to panic and your hands start to sweat and your pits start to sweat. And it, like, all of a sudden you don't have makeup on. That was the day. All you did was wash your hair in the sink. And now TV wants you to put you on. So we're going to talk about some of those things, like how to handle those moments and how to still move forward. All with the idea that in November, the businesses that go through this have the opportunity to then pitch to their local media. To pitch to their local media, TV, radio, newspaper, and stand a chance at getting on before the holiday season. Because who wouldn't want to have more people in your business or more people seeing you online during the holidays?
Yeah.
Like, we all would want that.
And is there any specific type of business, or is this just for anyone, whether they have an online storefront?
It's for any of them, any businesses. And again, someone might be listening or watching saying, that's all fine, well, and good, but I have zero desire to be on television. I get it. But you might want to be on a podcast. You might have the opportunity to speak at a civic organization, or you might have already been booked as a speaker. And wouldn't you want to be able to share your business story, share your story in a more meaningful, authentic, impactful way, rather than just getting up and saying, yeah, well, when I was a teenager, my parents closed the store. Yeah. So we're going to do that.
Well, where can people go to find you and find out more about you and what you're doing and take advantage of what you're offering in October if they're interested?
Well, if they are interested, one of the best ways is to send me a DM, either on Instagram or LinkedIn, that just says cohort. And I can send you the link. There are replays available. So if you are coming in and we're, in our third week or in our fourth week, you still get the replays from week 1, 2, and 3. So you're not behind. You're right on time. You're going to have access to everything. So that would be the first thing is DM cohort. either on Instagram or LinkedIn. I am always accessible on Instagram and LinkedIn as Memorable Results Media. That's where you can find me, Memorable Results Media.
And I will make sure to put links in all of the show notes as well. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing your story with my audience. Do you have any last words of wisdom or anything that God's been putting on your heart, or a scripture that you walk in daily? Is there anything you want to share before we end?
I was reading this morning in the Message version, Isaiah 41:10, and I love where it says, it's the Message translation, so it's a little bit more, it's not
Current.
as buttoned up, but yeah, it's a little more current. But it is saying, don't panic. I have not dropped you. I have you. And I have, in moments where I question, I go back to that and I'm reminded, Michelle, he hasn't dropped you. He hasn't forgotten you. Don't panic. And so I would offer that as encouragement today, wherever you are in your business journey, entrepreneurial or otherwise, wherever you are in life, don't panic. He hasn't dropped you. And keep going, one foot in front of the other, and that's it. We don't have to worry about tomorrow, because tomorrow will take care of itself. But just one foot in front of the other.
Yeah. Well, thank you again. Thank you for sharing your story and your words of wisdom, and for all the help that you're giving to all of our small businesses out there that I'm sure really appreciate what you do and the heart behind why you do it.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being with you.
Oh, thank you again. Thanks so much for tuning in today. And if you know a small business owner that this episode might bless, I would love for you to share it with them. And if you enjoyed this conversation, you'll also want to check out my episode with Melissa Hughes. What looked like a mom fail actually went viral and opened new doors and purpose for her. Or my episode with Wendy Hooten, who shared how the news of her son's diagnosis, something that she first saw as a punishment, became the biggest blessing. Both are powerful reminders that good things can come from the very situations that we feel the hardest. And I also just want to thank you for your continued support. It means so much, and I'm excited to share that the Peaceful Presence podcast will now be featured on the Godcaster app. It's a brand new app platform with all Christian content, so go check that out. And then finally, if this episode encouraged you, one of the biggest ways that you can support is by rating the podcast. It helps more people find these stories of faith, hope, and miracles. So thanks again for being here. I am very grateful for you.